The name's Gambit, mon ami. Remember it.
Welcome everyone to a new video, a new Star Wars Unlimited video, and now we have two special guests, Beton and Swoop. Welcome to the channel.
Hello, racers.
Hello, Racers. Thank you very much for being here. For me, it's an honor to stay here with you. Of course, you don't need an introduction, but I'd like to say some things before we start with the interview. I like to remind to all the people who can see the video that you have your own channel, of course, the Swoop Racers, so you can go and subscribe. I'm going to put the link in the comments. Also, I'm going to put the link for your Discord, which is integrating Team Enigma Discord, so we can talk later about Team Enigma, of course. And for sure, the most interesting part for me, the Patreon of Swoop Racers, when you can find a lot of decks, competitive decks. And also, for me, the most interesting part, when you do the streams, as a player, for me, it's a very interesting thing, because you can learn a lot how pro players trying to play, how they face hard matchups and this kind of things, which for me is the best to improve yourself. So if you want to improve, let's go to the Patreon. And to begin, maybe you don't know that this channel who focus in the educational part of the card games, of course, Star Wars Unlimited game. To start with that educational aspect, you in all your tournaments get very good results. Beton is world champion. Zip arrived to the final in the regionals, and also you did a top 4 and top 8 in the last PQ, maybe. Yeah, last week or something.
We played a queue yesterday, literally, and I did top 4 and Beton did top 8. Yeah.
You always get amazing results. So how do you do that? How is the process?
Oh, okay. Let me start. I think.
Okay.
It takes a lot of time. That's the first part, and it's not only the time you spend on just playing, because it's of course one part. You need to be really accustomed to the game, know all the rules, know all the decks, but it's also how you spend that time while training. Having a team is a really big part of it. Having another player, like for me it's Sip, that you can always go bounce off ideas, bounce off decks. Our process often looks in a way that we build a lot of decks, and then we exchange it between each other and find weaknesses and differences between them. And when you pick a deck that you feel really comfortable with, then there is a lot of grind into every single matchup, every single possibility, and every way you can abuse the different interactions between things. So it's not only spending a lot of time on the game, but also being smart about how you spend that time, because mindlessly playing online or even on your locals, it doesn't always gets you better at the game.
Yeah, I feel that sometimes when I play in Caravas or something, that I feel like I am wasting time. And it could happen if you are not very focused on what are you doing, isn't it?
Yes, I think Caravas or Petranaki, they are a great tool. They are amazing at checking if your deck has a really good ratios of cards, if you get your turn 1, turn 2 plays, how it handles different matchups or different situations, but you will not get a good training, especially versus top decks there.
Yeah.
because finding like a top player online is really hard. And a matchup that you've like played 20 times online, that you felt like it's a really easy matchup. I was always winning that. And then I played the same matchup versus Sip. And I like and then it's not an easy matchup at all. So and that's why whenever I mostly I start building decks, then Sips fix them and make them playable. But it's often like when I test decks before, like, this deck feels incredible, I'm winning everything.
Yeah.
And then you actually start testing versus experienced players, and it goes, okay, it lacks really good early because I'm often going behind early. I need something more there. Or I need an answer for a specific, like, for example, I need an answer for Tarkintown because, like, with the hand to ECL that we are currently playing, Tarkintown was a big issue before, but now with the new set we have like Gungi and Grogu are a great answers to it. So you always can adjust your decks to the meta, and that's why there is no like, this is the best deck and this deck is there is no changes to make into the deck, because Star Wars is unique in the sense that it's a constantly evolving meta. Like, for example, now, kindly because of us, hand to ECL is more popular, which also brought back like Kylo Tarkintown. Talzin is more popular because of Bilbao, of course. But it's not the greatest meta for Han, and you need to adjust your deck to know what is getting more popular. Like, even now, Gar Saxon is getting more popular, and we had to adjust the deck list a little bit because it wasn't the greatest matchup.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, when you're preparing a tournament, you have a schedule like, okay, I'm a Swoop Racer. I wake up, I take a coffee, and then I have, 4 hours of playing, 4 hours of study. You study meta theoretically, or just play. You play only your own deck, or you play all the decks to understand better the other matchups? Sip, for example.
So for us, it's like we don't have like a super strict schedule. Like with Enigma, guys, we have just one meeting per week where we just meet with each other and we're playing with whatever we feel like, whatever we are playing at the moment and preparing for the tournaments. And for my games against Beton, it's like, okay, you're online, I'm online, so we just wanna play some games, and we just end up playing. It's usually in the evening. We sometimes end up super late, which has some issues with like waking up to work and such. But we really like we usually start by playing, and the structure is like one of us is playing our current list that we are preparing for the big event, and the other person is playing whatever we feel like is currently the meta, so we get the best practice against like the meta matchup. So that's the structure, and then after a few games we just switch, so everyone can get some perspective how a matchup functions. Sometimes it's a little bit annoying when we have like to play like a deck that both of us like really hate to play, but we know that we need to just to get the reps and like understand the lines. And then after like playing some games, like playing some matchups, like we usually just chat with each other at the end, like gives like bounce off each other the ideas, like Beton mentioned before, and like talk about like different options, maybe what we can bring to the deck to improve the matchup, what can be changed, like our observations from the matchup. So like we finished the matchup and we're like, okay, card X, Y, Z is the most important one here. And like this line really works well. This line doesn't work so well. even though maybe it works against other matchups, but for this specific reason it doesn't work. And like saying things like that really like speeds up the process of learning how to play each matchup with whatever we are playing at the moment. And like that's also like a huge part, because we almost always we have like very similar playstyle to each other. Like we really like the aggro mid-range type of deck. So it's very easy for us to play the same deck, and that gives us a lot of advantage because we can build the deck together basically.
And you don't feel sometimes playing against the same player could be sometimes harder than the reality, because you know each other so good and you know how the other one is thinking about the matchup?
Yeah, it makes some matchups different, but we also, whenever we play, it's not like, oh, we play the game, we win or lose and like talk about it. We often replay the same game few times. For example, if we have different lines we could take, we often go back to certain turn. Okay, what if I played this way? So we try to eliminate like the opponent out of the equation when we test. Because yeah, I, for example, know that I cannot go upgrade turn 2 versus Sip because he always have the answer. But I will. But when we are testing, I will do it because I know a lot of players will play that way. So we always need to be prepared for we also sometimes in testing even play incorrectly with the deck, just to know what happens if someone plays like this. For example, versus like Boba Data Vault. It's often incorrect to just slam Boba onto the ship when your opponent has open mana, but you will encounter players who does it, and you need to know how to counter it if they do. So when testing, of course, at the beginning we always like best lines, best possible cases, but if we have more time, we also try to go into like more obscure situations and obscure lines, because they often happen, especially versus good players.
Wow.
Yeah. And
tell me, sorry.
Yeah, I was also about to say that like another thing that we tend to do is if we have like, we don't care about that much who is winning or losing in the testing process. So one thing that we tend to do from time to time is that, okay, let's say I'm playing the hand ECL, but Beton is playing, I don't know, cut 1-drops, and I have this situation and I have like 2 options and I'm not sure which one is better. So I'll just show him my hand and like we'll talk through like all the options for like a few minutes, and then like we'll settle on like what is the better option here out of the 2 options.
Yeah, you did that in the one of your past streams in the Patreon. I saw you talking about your performance in Bilbao. And sometimes when you were looking the match, you say, "Oh, why you did that? What do you have in the hand? Why you didn't play with that or that card, or why you didn't attack before?" And sometimes there is hard decisions. It's not clearly. So it could be very important in that moment, trying to talk before a great tournament and between us, between you, trying to say, okay, the best option is that one or that one.
Yeah, often there is no best option. That's what is really hard about it, because sometimes you just need to guess what your opponent have in hand. But sometimes whenever for example, when we rewatch our games, it's like I sometimes ask a question about some play because I either didn't think of something that could happen that Sip was trying to play around, or it's sometimes just a mistake, and pointing it out makes, oh yeah, I should have played differently. So because like there is not a single player that makes correct choice every single time.
Yeah.
Not only because like you always like you don't have all the information. Like for example, versus Talzin, it was a 50-50 which removal she may have, and sometimes you guess correctly and you get advantage, and sometimes you fell right into the one that, like, she already played 2 but she had the 3rd one. And of course then the correct play is always try to do the mathematical best option. So of course, if they played 2 power, it's a really unlikely situation that they will have the third one.
Yeah.
But there is like another layer of it. Like if you are really experienced at playing live, you can read your opponent a little bit because people always react. Like you cannot hide every single reaction you do. So like if your opponent, for example, looks really unpleasant with their hand, you sometimes can risk a really risky line because if they don't like their hand, maybe they don't have that power for turn 2, and I can slam my saber on turn 2 and just win. It will put you sometimes in the position that you instantly lose. But for example, I had a game in Bilbao when my opponent mulliganed the hand and was super unhappy.
Yeah.
It was game 2. I won game 1, and I was like, yeah, okay. Like he seems really, really unhappy, and he had a 2-drop. So I was like, oh, so it's not a 2-drop thing. So yeah, I will just try it. If I lose, I still have a third game to play. But if I won the first game, I can take a riskier line on game 2. Yeah, and my opponent said that I didn't have a single piece of removal in hard control. so I went blade, face, Kelleran back on 4, and game was over.
So you're all the time reading your opponent.
Yeah, it is a really hard, especially if you didn't it's the first time you play someone. But there are certain cues that you can take off, especially if you play 3 games with someone. People tend to play similarly, so you can pick up a small things that your opponent do, and of course it depends on the day, because for example, if I'm super tired, I'm not thinking about at all what my opponent is doing. But yeah, after a 9th round, I'm thinking, okay, let's try to remember to play a card on my turn 2. But if you are fresh and you have that additional time and mental energy to spend on it, you sometimes can get a little bit of an advantage by analyzing how your opponent plays. And of course, it can be a small things. For example, a lot of people, when they draw a card and they don't like it, they put it at the end of their hand. And it's something that you cannot say, oh, they didn't like last of their 2 draws. So maybe they don't have anything on 5, so I can slam Poe and be happy with it. And on the other hand, when people look at the top of their hand and are instantly smiling, I'm like, oh yeah, they probably drew that overwhelming barrage. I can play around it.
And Zip, why you did no with your head when he talked about the General's Blade? What?
Yeah, I mean it's the definition of how we play. Beton is all about taking risks, and I am the guy who really likes to play in a very what's the word to describe it, a very stable way. I don't like to take risk as much as he does, which actually quite beneficial for us, because when we play also this tends to happen quite a lot, that Beton is taking the more risky lines, I'm taking the more safe lines, and then we get a consensus on what's the better line in that position, and we then implemented those things live. But yeah, Beton playing the turn 2 General's Blade No Fury is classic him generally.
Yeah, but at the same time, because we play versus each other, I like risky lines. I like to sometimes gamble a little bit. Of course, if I can lower the chances of it failing, it's awesome. And because Sips never does it, for example, it's showed me in some matchups how I can minimalize my risks. And at the same time, Sip can sometimes, he knows he needs to take the risk sometimes, and it's easier for him to know what risks are less punishable to take. Because for example, there are some decks, some lines that even if they punish your really risky line, you are not really that behind. And if they didn't, you win the game. So even though it's a risky line, it's actually not terrible to do it, because on average you will come ahead.
Yeah, I see that, but sometimes I am playing and I think, okay, I have to be risky. I saw Beton doing that very risky, and then I do it and I lost. And it's like, oh my god, I'm just a normal guy that cannot do that.
Yeah.
But you did a very risky place against SIP in the regional, I think, or no? With the official, looking the researches.
Oh, it actually, in that situation, it wasn't risky. I just didn't have any other free drop to take.
Okay.
But to be honest, in that game, it didn't really matter. Even if I found the free drops I was hoping for, I got my value from those quarry a turn too late. When their risky line was triple quarry,
Yeah,
hoping that I will get any 5-drop to instantly kill Grogu, because I knew if I ECL on 4-on-5 and kill it, the game is over. The funny thing is, if I played those same quarry on Poe Pilot, like on the X-Wing, I would have won because I top-decked Fang next turn and I could have ECL'd it. And if I would trigger triple quarry on 4 resources, there is almost nothing SIP could have done. But yeah, sometimes you need to take risks, and especially like we played that matchup for the first time on stream that day, because there was no point to test a mirror match in the deck that nobody except from us plays.
Yeah.
Right
like,
now?
That was super funny because like I was actually regularly watching the whole thing, the whole stream when I was on the plane, like going back to Poland, and I remember like I was listening to casters and they said like, oh, they must have probably played that matchup so many times because like they are taking like both of them are playing the same lines, and like I found that to be super funny just because like we literally were playing like very similar cards. Like it was like Grogu into Grogu, Poe into Poe, Bleeder into Bleeder, and things like that.
Yeah, and for example, right now we played mirror a lot. And we'll play it a lot because now the deck is really popular and we need to be prepared to handle it. So this is also also in training, like through the questions before. For example, playing online, you play a lot of random decks.
Yeah.
And that is getting you almost nowhere, especially if you are really experienced with the deck. Playing versus Yoda Red or Yoda Petranaki Arena. Well, okay, if you know your common lines, there is almost 0% you will play that deck on actual tournament. So you don't get any value of like playing those kind of decks. That's why even when I'm playing online, I always try to find matchups that are actually like popular. And even though I need to play like my 50th game into Boba Data Vault, which is the worst possible time playing Star Wars, you need to do it because you need to know how to fight those like most popular decks. And because we actually have a really good resources into knowing what the meta actually is, like SWU competitive hub and base, like both of those sites provide so many incredible information for what decks are popular, what decks have good matchups into what. And also, like for example, in SWU the base, you can check what decks like have positive runs into tournaments. Because like even though for example Boba was one of the most popular decks in Bilbao, if you went 3-0, you didn't see a single one because that deck doesn't really win. So post round 3, even if it was the most popular deck, you would not encounter one.
Yeah, I didn't think about it.
So for us, the most important statistic that what decks we will be testing is what decks are actually going into top 8. Because those are the decks that like consistently make really good results. And this is the deck that you will be encountering in the later rounds. Because of course you can be really unlucky and like meet SIP in round 1.
Yeah.
But more often than not, first 3 rounds of the really big tournaments are the rounds that you should most likely win.
Okay. Did you expect Talsin in the regional, or was a surprise for you?
I didn't expect it at all.
Yeah, like me neither. Like Talzin is like one of those decks. Like when Force Rogue got banned, like everyone was like, okay, Talzin probably gone. I played till Eld a bit, but like I just couldn't really find a way to like play against like the control decks, which obviously were supposed to simple play. So I dropped the idea of Talzin very early.
Yeah, I also think even though the player that won is a really experienced and really good player, he was also lucky in his matchups. Because like he dodged almost every single blue-green villain deck during the tournament. And this is, I think, the part of Talzin that is really hard to beat. Especially like Gar ECL, Traun Data Vault are really hard decks to fight. So yeah, it is a really good deck. It can beat most of the meta, but it also have a really big problem with like the 30% of other decks. So I didn't expect anyone to be as far in the tournament as he was, and yeah, but it paid off for him because later in the tournament also there was not really a lot of decks that counter Talzin, and he also drew really well, almost well, because he drew Yoda, which should have been a really bad matchup for Talzin.
Yeah.
But he won it, so if you win the hard matchups, this is when you know that you are really experienced and good with the deck. But even like the best player in the world, if the matchup is bad, you may win 1 or twice, but if you met like 5 of them, you will not win every single one of them.
Yeah, I got a question for another moment, but I'd like to make that question. For example, me, a normal guy in Bilbao, I won all the easy matchups and I lost every hard matchup in all the events. How do you prepare that hard matchups? Because I was playing Magic the Gathering for 20 years, more or less, and for me the hard matchups was easier. It's like, okay, I can do a lot of things in my turn, so I can kill that, I can put that card in your hand, I can discard you, I don't know, I can do a lot of things. But here, against a hard matchup, when the opponent always have a good action, it's like, okay, I try that, I'll destroy it. I try that, I'll destroy it. And it's like, oh my god, how can I win this kind of situations?
Yeah. I would say, like, in our case, it's like, whenever we are thinking, like, what deck we want to actually bring for the big events, because, like, it's always, like, when you, like, we are going first, like, the initial phase where we're, like, thinking, like, what is the meta gonna be like roughly on the event? Especially like it's harder early on when there is like no data. So like tournaments like Galactics or like the sectors and regionals in the JTL, it was hard to have like a good understanding of the meta. But what we do is we try to pick a deck that will have a pretty decent matchup into everything. And like what we are looking for in a deck is that we don't care as much about like having auto wins against matchups. We care about not having auto losses. So like we pick a deck that has like like the least amount of very bad matchups, and we just kind of hope that we can like win with like the abilities, like the matchups where the matchups are even, and that's kind of our thing. Like we try to just pick a deck that has like very even matchup spread across the board.
Yeah, and the second part is very often in the really bad matchups, even though, for example, if your deck has like 80-20% matchup, those are the matchups when you take risks. Like if they have the answer, you would lose probably anyway, but this is where the matchup where you can, okay, I slam Saber turn 2. Oh, they didn't have the answer, so this is my 20% that I win.
It happens more like you win more of those games than like you should really, but yeah, like that's how it works.
Because like if you have a really bad matchups, it's often both of players play fairly. Like, oh, I play 2-drop, you play 2-drop, I play 3-drop, we play removal. Your deck was slower, so you won. But if you know that you cannot win like the prolonged equal game, then you go for like the lines that are not common. Like for example, then you go for like triple query or saber line, or just go all space, and maybe this time they don't have answer for space, and you can just outrun them. And often when we test and we find, oh, this setup is really bad, but they almost always are at least one way of play that matchup that feels advantageous, and we always try to, as Sip said, build a deck in a way that there isn't anything that is unwinnable.
And another thing that for me it's amazing, guys, when I see you in streams, it's the easy thing for you when you are playing a game and you say, okay, we have in front of us, I don't know, Yoda reinforced, so he can play that in turn 1, maybe in turn 2 he tried that, maybe in turn 3 he tried that, and if it is not Yoda, if it, I don't know, I imagine if it is Sokka, he could play that, but it's very risky, so you do a lot of information, a lot of info, just in a second, and it's like, oh my god, when I'm playing, I'm just, okay, what I put in the researches, and oh, you play that, oh, nice card, so what I'm doing now, and how many hours, so how long a normal person, maybe without a team, need to get that speed in your mind to understand the meta, because as Beton said, the meta is always evolving. I don't know, I have to forget about that, I have to renounce, or I can continue trying to improve in that way to get that mind, that speed.
Okay, for me it's it really helps if you play one deck, because for the things like when I pick a deck and I put a lot of hours into it, you get to the point where you don't think about your hand and resources. For example, when you, as I said, after the 50th game of Boba Data Vault, I look my 6 opening hands and I know exactly how the game should look. I know what cards I'm looking for. I know what I should put on the resource, what cards are important in this matchup. And it allows me to have more time and energy to focus on the other stuff, what they can play, how they react. And this is the time you actually save a lot, especially in tournaments, because whenever you can, you should always allow yourself to not think about stuff that you don't need to. So for example, I always like to have, for every single matchup, know what are my best, like turn 1 and turn 2. Because then it allows me to it allows me to have more time thinking in the really crucial later turns, but also it allows me to like look at my opponent, look how they react, what they are doing, how they are playing, and to be able to do that, that's when the times come in. That's when the Petranaki and Karabas games give you a lot, because when you know your, like, okay, Grogu is my best turn 1 here. I have it. I don't need to think if I need to resource Marine or Grogu. I know that Marine can go onto the resource pile, or I keep both because I know I will play them later. But then I can think, okay, I know they can play this, and their best play is this. And this also, because we are playing everything versus each other, it also allows us to know, yeah, I know how Boba players think, how they play, because I also played as Boba a lot. And for me, the best way to get better at this is have one deck that you are sticking with, constantly going back to it, but also when you have time, pick a deck that wanna pick you and play like 10 games with it to see how it feels, to see how it plays, because it will help you also see, like, for example, whenever I played hard control, whenever I play against hard control, it's like they always have all the answers. It's like I play, they kill, I play, they kill. But then I play hard control and it's like, this deck is awful. there's like 5 useless cards in my hand and there's nothing I can play. And then I'm just hoping, oh, maybe Sip will play the only free drop I can kill. And then when I go back, it's like, he played a removal that I know he wanted to keep for something else. So it means that he probably doesn't have another one. And this is when you can get a lot of small advantages during the game. Because, for example, if your opponent played Rival Force on Poe, you can be sure that they don't have takedown on Fel the Dragon.
Yeah.
And then you can play around like those information in the future turns.
Yeah, I have to take notes about all of this. When you are training or testing, you always use the same deck for the tournaments and that, but the rest of the Team Enigma players playing other decks. So where Swoop Racers end and when Team Enigma starts, and why they don't use the same deck as you?
I would say like the answer why like they play something else is because like is a playstyle type of thing. Like there are people who can play everything. There are people who are okay. I can play control this time. Next set I can play aggro, and that's fine by me. But many people are playing just a one archetype. Like they really like the mid range. Like in our case, there are people who just really like aggro, and they are really specialized in that category. So in our Team Enigma, like you can call me Alk, who is like playing just Sabine, and he's like really good at the Sabine. And so if you want to have like a really good testing into Sabine player, you can play him. And like everyone in the deck has like in the team has some sort of archetype that they are super comfortable with, but it might not be the same archetype as my and Beton's. It just happened for us that we really like very similar type of deck, type of playstyle, and that allows us to play the same deck. But yeah, it doesn't work for everyone. And obviously, if you force yourself to play an archetype that you really don't like, it might work in a very few fringe cases, but it's gonna be way harder. And like one thing that is like super important here is that if you play a deck that you don't enjoy, you will have way harder time learning the deck and like grinding the games to like get really good at the deck, because you will just not enjoy the experience, and like playing the deck will feel like doing a chores or whatever. Like it will be just not a great time. And if you play a deck that you really like playing the deck just feels good, and then you'll pick up all the important things that you need to know in like all the matchups way more naturally.
Yeah, sometimes that's automatically. When I enjoy a deck, I go to bed thinking about the deck. That's the thing.
I can also add that when Enigma was created, or like Torque was picking players, it was with a thinking of that we need to have every single archetype and every single play style in the team. Because, for example, if we all liked aggro decks, you wouldn't get a good training into a control deck
Yeah.
because nobody would be a control expert. And like, for example, even when I play with SIP, there are certain archetypes that we are terrible at, especially like on top level. For me, for example, it was Quinlan Tarkintown. I couldn't play that deck even if I wanted to on a level that I was satisfied with my performance. This was a deck that I felt I'm awful at.
That's the moment where like someone like Humble comes into play, who like top 4 like the regional in Lille with Quinlan. So yeah, he's pretty good at the Quinlan.
Yeah, so having a team also gives you a lot of like additional training partners that are like specialized in certain archetypes, and then you can learn a lot because like, for example, there are lines in Quinlan that I completely like didn't think are even playable, because like the deck on the surface level, the deck is not extremely hard, but to play that deck on like a really, really high level, I think it was one of the hardest decks to play, at least for me. And on the other hand, they are like, for example, Torque is a like really good control player. So even though I can play control, and this is a matchup I feel quite okay with, when we are testing, I prefer to play test versus him, because then I'm 100% sure that he will most likely play the correct lines, or play in a way that I know like the top players of the archetype will play.
Well, I have to do that question. Talking about the styles, I have to say that maybe for me you are my favorite players. Seeing you, because did you see, guys, Infinite War, the Marvel film? With Avengers and all this kind. You know the moment when Doctor Strange is doing something with the idol of Agamotto, looking for the possibilities of the different futures of the world. You know that moment. And you, Beton, do it. You do that sometimes, but Sip do it a lot. This moment with the hand when he's playing, like the eye of Agamotto, looking for the different futures. And I have to ask you, when you do that, it's always true, or just maybe you don't have the answer, and it's only for that turn, or for 2 or 3 turns after that you are trying to look forward?
Yeah, so yeah, it's very funny that I do it. Like a few people already pointed that out to me, but yeah, like for me it's like visualizing rounds, and like the answer can be between like just the current round or like till the end game. Like I remember like when I was in the finals of one of the PQs in JTL, I was playing Hunt to ECL, my opponent was playing Sabine, and on round 2, I already knew how much damage I will do with every single swing, and I calculated my perfect lethal, and that's just exactly what happened. And I had exact lethal with like 3 rounds in advance, basically, which was absolutely crazy. And there are matchups where you can do that, but there are also matchups where like the opponent has like more reactive deck. They have like more removals where it's harder to like predict everything. But yeah, you can do that in some matchups. But yeah, like it's just visualizing like either just the current round or like multiple, depending on the matchup and like how complex the scenario is. Because like if there are more units, there are more pieces on the board, it's harder to predict exactly what happens. But yeah, like that's how it works for me, at least. And like doing like the thing with the hand, like it helps me a little bit with visualizing all the things, even though like it looks kind of silly sometimes.
Yeah, it's great. The eye of Agamotto.
For me, it's mostly the current turn. For me, it's just allows me to easier count. Like he deals 3, I deal 3, he deals 3, I deal 3, he does something, and then I can just do it with my hand to just keep track of whose action it is in my head. And for example, for like longer predictions, I just basically try to do it in my head. But like whenever you find something that works for you, just go for it, however stupid it may look.
No, it's not stupid. I didn't try to mean that.
No. I mean, even if it would be the most awkward thing to do, if it helps you get to the to the end game you want, it's worth it.
Yeah.
But whenever I play versus Sip, it was always funny to me because I know where he's starting to count. Like, because Sip is a player that hates counting damage. 90% of the games he goes on feel. He's like, I think I have little, I will go face. But I know that he really wants to win when he starts counting and actually doing the math. So it's really funny whenever he does it, like, oh, he's locked in. He's actually doing the math. But especially in training, like, it's often like he goes, I go base, and like, you're one off. It's not lethal. So yeah. This is also the fact that whenever you play with someone a lot, the games are completely different than normal Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And guys, now we have Secrets of Power, the sixth set for Star Wars, the last set before rotation. Do you feel you missing cards? You are satisfied with all the archetypes and all the cards we have? Because maybe we don't have a competitive aggro deck in villainy. We don't have massive removal in heroism. I don't know. How do you feel about this thing? You are okay with the cards, with the 6 sets? Or you miss something?
For me, it's like I don't feel like we are at the point where like any of the archetypes are like super underperforming or whatever. Like, I guess Hard Control is a deck that kind of disappeared, but I think it's a little bit by design. I think FFG doesn't really want that like super hard control to be that good at the game. And like, I guess meal strategies, because like there are also people who love the meal, and there are a few pieces here and there, but they are not enough to make a good deck. But
yeah, so like I love the meal.
Yeah, like all the satin lovers and such. But yeah, like when it comes to like balance and like such, like I personally don't mind the fact that, let's say, we have aggro and aggro is just heroic decks. Like maybe there's no Vidani decks that are just good aggros, but it's super rare because like the way how I view it is that, let's say, aggro Vidani, like even though like we don't have we used to don't have like a good leader that deploys on 4 resources for Vidani, which we actually will do with the Dedra. But and we used to have that with Sabine, like basically since the beginning of the game, because like she was always somewhere in the meta. Even though that wasn't the case for the Villani, we still have Vader, who is an aggro deck also, and he functions in a different way. So like you need to approach the game differently, but it's still aggro for me, and like that's how I view it.
Yeah, for me, I don't look at the game in like, oh, this is a villainy archetype, this is an heroic archetype. I look at the fact that, do we have aggro? Yes. Do we have mid-range? Yes. Do we have control? Yes. Do we have combo? Not really, but it was like something like a combo. But I think at the moment, the meta is extremely healthy. We have like 10 different archetypes, because even decks like Piet, which is a little bit of like a tribal deck, is playable. You can win a big tournament with it. And with the new set, I am a little bit worried that we will be in the aggro meta in the next set. I'm actually really worried that Sabine will be the best leader again in the new set. From the new set, I really liked a lot of designs. I think they did 2 big like problems in design in this set. The first one is that we didn't really get any good legendaries, and it goes to the point that in like the next set we have 2 or 3 legendaries that you will be excited to open, which is a little bit sad because like this opening packs is also one part of collecting cards.
Yeah, for sure.
But on the other side, there is a lot of cards in the new set that will completely change the game. Plot mechanic is a mechanic that, as long as it will be in like rotation, it will be really relevant. And there are few really good plot cards in the set. But I also think the new set may open up a few new ways of play. Because, like, for example, they introduced like leaders like Bale, which play completely differently than anything else. So I think to this point, the developers do a really good job in allowing people play in their style that they want, because almost every single style is equally represented in like top level. And with the mill archetype and hard control archetype, even though they don't want them to be relevant, they always are. In the end, there is always like that one competitive hard control player who will go to the established meta and just win versus every single Django player. Or to be honest, yesterday in like top 8 of the PQ, I got milled playing Hantu ECL versus Traun Data Vault.
Oh my god.
Yep.
That's why you don't like Mill.
The saddest part was I got milled and my opponent didn't play a single Vigilance.
Oh.
We just played a really long game. So I just ran out of cards because I ran out of cards. And yeah, right now I'm really happy in the like direction that the game goes. There could be a lot of improvements still, because like we could get a little bit more leaders that are playable in every single set. They could take a little bit more risks, like even with the new set, for example, Lama Su will be probably completely unplayable leader, and she could have been 1 mana cheaper and was a really competitive leader that is kind of interesting. But at the same time, because they don't take like heavy risks, the meta is really open. So we need to take like it from both sides, and like they should be proud of how many leaders and many color combinations is playable for the last 2 sets at least. Because like it's really, for me, it is not easy to design a game when you have like 8+ combinations and every single one of them sees play and have like people behind it that pursue it in the highest level.
Mm-hmm. And talking about the meta, it could be a problem have a very big meta, because with your deck you cannot answer all the decks of the meta, so you have a little sideboard. So maybe sometimes in a big tournament you depends too much with the matchups, because sometimes you could have an out to lose or something, or it's if it is a big meta, it's good.
Yeah. I would say like I don't mind also like the like super open meta. Like there are people who don't enjoy that much, and like you can bring the argument of like you can't tech against everything, but the thing is that you can pick cards that will work against multiple matchups at the same time, and like finding a card that, let's say, will counter 3 matchups at the same time might be the better card than card that just counters one of the matchups. And like finding a card that will work against multiple matchups is the key. So like there are cards that are like super specific, but because of how meta functions, they are maybe even main deckable. Like I think Champ Sedula is like the best example. Like Champ Sedula, by design, he's like a card that is meant to be probably played the sideboard just to counter ramp. So you side in against the ramp decks, but meta is in a way like in a place where there are just so many ramp decks, and like it even works against like some non-ramp decks. Like with Han ECL, you can ECL Chum into Sabine and kill her, which is like already a good thing. So you can main deck that card, and like there are other cards that you can play the sideboard to try to counter multiple matchups, and finding those cards that work in multiple scenarios is like the thing that like is separating like a good sideboard from like a really good sideboard.
I also think like open meta benefits us a lot because like for example, me and Sip, we are playing we are really liking aggressive mid-range decks, and aggressive mid-range decks thrive in open meta because we are prepared, like the decks are in design prepared to beat everything. But I also like open meta because it allows you to showcase your skill in a lot of ways, because if you can memorize your matchup versus something perfectly, it stops being about how good you play and starts being about what you draw. And if you have no idea what your opponent is playing, then you need to start to thinking, okay, there is like 10 different removals he can play. I can guess what he can do, or I can just play around as many of them as possible. And then for example, the way that Sip plays that is super safe is really clutch, because if you play super safe, it allows you to play around almost everything. And it's also like it is a skill. Like there are players that are extremely well in really closed meta, but are really terrible at the open ones, and vice versa. I think we both. I personally don't mind. I really like the Django meta, even though there was like 2 decks. Because I thought Django Mirror was actually really fun to play. I was also happy that when they banned him, because it was getting to the point that like playing the same thing every time was getting a little bit boring. But after they banned it, the meta opened up, and I was also super happy because I was able to play different things. So yeah, I think you can find enjoyment in any meta. It just really, like, a lot of people just like different things, and it's also really cool in Star Wars because the meta is constantly changing.
Yeah.
So every single play style and every single way of play is like featured at some point of the meta, and then like the con players rejoice when like in like set 1 when Vader Blue was the best deck for a moment.
Do you think Bale could be the surprise for the meta with the new set, or do you are thinking another leaders? Which leaders do you enjoy more with the new set? Or maybe you keep Hantu and that's all.
I mean, like we're talking specifically about the leaders from the secrets. The 2 leaders that are the most interesting for me are Bale and Padme. I feel like power level wise, they seem the best. There are some other leaders that seem interesting on paper, like Dryden, Dedra. I haven't tested those yet, but yeah, they seem interesting on paper. But yeah, like this, it's very also likely that we'll just stick to something that we already played. Like this is one of the funny things that like kind of like illustrates the point that we made before, that we tend to play like one thing for a really long period of time to master it. Like for me, like it's a 5th set, and I only played 4 leaders like at big events. I only played Hantu, Boba, Django, and Talzin, and nothing else at big events. So like, it's very likely that I will just stick to something that I already played, even like maybe Talzin, maybe Hantu, but could switch like depending on how meta shapes out.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I like to explore. To be honest, when we stick to a deck, I will stick to it in the biggest tournaments. I will train that one deck. But for a smaller tournaments, I'm the player who will take Palpatine or Dooku or Han 1 Red. So I really like deck building. I really like exploring different leaders. From the new set, for me, Bale is the most unique one and powerful at the same time. I tried to make almost every other leader work. Padme was the second one that clicked and was pretty decent. The third one for me is Cassian, but until Sabine rotates out, he will not be playable. But after rotation, I think he may be a really good aggressive leader. And it's the same, like, for example, with Jabba. Jabba is something that can be played. It's not a bad leader. They are just better ones in the same color combination.
Yeah.
But after rotation, everything may change. So, like, for me, Bale and Padme, the same as Sip said, I think there are few leaders that are a little bit overrated, like Sabe. I tried to make her work. She feels really underpowered. But with the new set, I'm not a player that's, oh, it's a new set, I need to play new leader. It's also, oh, it's a new set, maybe an old leader gets so much power that it's much better.
Yeah.
Sadly, the leaders that got the most power are the leaders that are actually seeing play. Like, Hantu is one of the leaders that gets a lot of power from the new set. So we may stick to him. But maybe Hantu Blue, because that's a leader that also gets a little bit more power in the new set. Even though I don't think I will convince Sip to play a blue leader again.
Yeah, I absolutely despise playing blue. Like, playing Thousand was just such a kind of task for me.
Yeah, at least Thousand was an aggressive leader, so it was the only.
Enough, but yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for the new set. I think it will change the game a lot. The only, like, for me, as I said before, the thing that I'm worried about is that Sabine will be everywhere.
Yeah, it could be a problem. My best friend plays always Sabine. I hate him.
Like, I would say I wouldn't be like too worried right now, because like the thing is that, like, sure, Sabine seems good on paper with like Nemec and Jar Jar and like Yoda lightsaber and such, but like there is always like counter meta. Like, if a deck, like if there is like one deck that is like super dominating, like people will try to play around the deck, around that deck, and like build a deck with that deck in mind. So like in the current set, with Sabine, and Sabine's like getting like hard countered by cut 1-drops. So maybe something like that will come. Maybe some other like control deck will just crush Sabine, or like anti-aggro like deck, like a blue-green heroic deck, like with a lot of anti-aggro tools. Like things like that will probably happen. So
I don't think we will be in the. Oh, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, like we just need to kind of wait and see how the meta develops, and like also like the anti-meta.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I don't think we will be in the situation like with Django, that we'll have all-powerful, the best deck ever. I just got crushed enough by Al playing Sabine that I'm kind of getting worried.
Okay. Well, just to finish, I have to ask you one more thing. In Magic, for example, they had a tradition that they, when someone wins, I don't know, the World Championship, or when someone enters in the Hall of Fame as a player, Wizards of the Coast, the company, do a card with the face of the player, and that's great. I like a lot these kind of things. For example, we had in Spade Alai, who won the 2 World Championships. He had the card, and was great. And I like to know you better, all the people who watch you from the other part of the screen, to know you better. Maybe you can do a card of your partner. Maybe Sip can do a card of Beton, and maybe Beton can do a card of Sip. And I'll put the image then in the video. So I don't know who want to start with the card of the other one.
Yeah. So Beton, you can start maybe.
So you want to tell me I need to design a card for Sip, like
Yeah, like I don't know,
Sip would be
Sith, the Sith or the Jedi or the underworld. I don't know. Which ability could have, or if it is a leader or a unit.
Oh, I exactly know what the card would do. It would be a 2-mana aggressive unit that allows you to see your opponent's hand and top of their deck for the rest of the game. So he doesn't need to take any risks during the game. So it will be like 2-mana, 2/4. Look at your opponent's hand, and at the start of every single round, look at top 2 cards of your opponent before they draw them.
Very broken.
Yeah.
We have to find. And Zip, how is the Beton card?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's gonna like for Beton, it's gonna be the exact opposite. Like it will be like the most random card. So something like a 5-mana 5/5 6/5 that says on attack, name a card. If like the top of name a card, shuffle your deck. So like there is no cheating with like Yoda's ability or whatever. You reveal the card. If it's the named card, you play it for free or something like that. Like just classic Beton. Like he just stopped like lightning or something like that.
Too random.
Yeah, like yeah, it's obviously bad design, but it basically explains like Beton as a person exactly.
I will not disagree, but I would not play with that card.
I hope if Fantasy Flight Games sometimes do these kind of things, the card of players, do better cards or no broken cards to play with them. Well, guys, that's the end. Thank you very much for being here. It was a pleasure to be with both of you. And I will remind that you have the links with the channel, the Discord, and the Patreon of the Swoop Racers. That's a honor. I cannot say more. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
for having us.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. See you in next videos. Bye.
Bye.